I'm going to give you a minute here because the ownership group, um,
I've
for
no
lack
problem
of a
with the
better
ownership. Let me be clear.
lack of a better
Jacobs family's
term,
fine.
management of this team, uh, they kind of fucked you here.
Oh yeah, they've been doing it
Uh,
for a
and and,
decade.
I'm, and I don't get it.
2 decades.
CBW saying Bruins are hot. Yes,
Yeah.
they have currently won 2 games in a row and are gonna fight their way into a playoff spot they don't want and lose out on all the draft capital that they desperately need to rebuild. So I'm gonna give you I got to give you at least 2 minutes here to have your piece because, buddy, this one was not fun. Bruins
Nope.
trading everyone. You didn't just. It's not just. And let me be clear. Losing Marchand was a big deal, and for the price that you lost him for was also just asinine.
Yep.
But you also lost two other pretty significant pieces of this group, both of whom I actually like a lot. I'm not sure what the
Carlo
thought
pisses. I
process.
like Carlo. He pisses the fuck out of me, but I do like him. Uh, Coyle hurt. Pride of Weymouth. That's tough. Tough to see him go. Brad was obviously the most painful. 15 years in the organization. 16 years in the organization. It was a tough day the other day. If anyone saw my rants on Twitter, my my Twitter account just went full negative, like hate, heel. Like I was in full heel mode the other day. It came from a place of pain and a place of anger. And 10 plus years of the Bruins doing the same stupid fucking shit every year. And I don't know why, but the first time they did something different, it hurt even more. Uh, every year we have a fantastic roster. We've had a decade, 20 years even going on of the Bergeron years and Chara, and things were good for a long time. The fact we talked about it a lot of times. The fact that we only got one cup out of it is an absolute shame, and we're gonna look back at this era of Bruins hockey as a failure, and that kind of sucks. I don't want it to be that way. These guys were around for my childhood growing up. Like, it's the Bruins teams I remember, but they're also going to be plagued with all of these Game 7 losses and all of these years where we came up just too short. And it sucks. And Marchand said this in his press conference with Florida the other day. Like, Sweeney swung for the fence time and time and time again, and we came up short. Whether that's an indictment on him, the players, both, whatever it may be, we didn't get the job done, and that's all led to this. We've been kind of circling the drain for a couple years now. Like, Bergeron retired, have no prospects, and we just keep giving up more draft capital and any young guy that has any shred of potential off to the next, deadline acquisition. This year, decided that that is no more. We're done with doing that, and we're going to move on, and we're going to be the people giving up the deadline acquisitions. I said last week that that's the direction we need to go. We had to recoup some of these picks, but Brad being dealt when he obviously wanted to stay here just marks the end of a full era of Bruins hockey, and it sucks because it should have been way more than it was.
Conditional second
A second, yeah,
with
and I'm like the
it
if
can
you
turn
look,
into a first, but it's not a
could turn
great
into a
first.
first if they make like a deep run this year and he's a
It's
part
two
of it.
run. It's 2 rounds. Yeah,
Yeah, and
he has to play 50% of the
Florida's
games.
obviously fantastic. They could do it. When you look at all of the things the Bruins got back, like the whole page of, oh, this is what we brought in, it doesn't look that bad. I have it right here if I can probably read it off real quick. Um, there we go. So out went Charlie Coyle, Justin Brazow, Trent Frederick, Brad Marchand, Brandon Carlo, Mark McLaughlin, a fifth and a fourth. You got back Casey Middlestat, who's got,
I like Casey.
I do. He's a
I like
good
Middlestat.
player. He's had a somewhat down year, did not really fit in well with Colorado, but I think he's going to be really
Well,
good here, especially with,
yep.
you know, wide open playing field. If you looked at the roster they trotted out the other night, this guy knew like half the team. I didn't know half the guys playing the other night. It was crazy. The numbers alone were wild. Jacob Lauko returning. I like him, obviously. He was here before. William
Yep.
Zellers, Marat I can't say his last name, but he's a demon on Chell, so hopefully it translates. Max Wayner, Masul, Fraser Minton from the Leafs, who's one of their top prospects. He's a second round pick in 22. We got two
Yep.
second round picks, a fourth round pick, a first round pick, the conditional pick we just discussed. It's a full overhaul. And this is what needed to happen. The band aid had to come off, but it still sucks. And it sucks that we still, like, you've tried to force feed Elias Lindholm and Nikita Zadorov into this team, and I wanted the Swayman contract to happen, but you spent 25 million average last year in the offseason, and now you can't afford to keep your captain. You can't find a middle ground to let the guy retire here. Like, obviously we weren't fucking good with him here. And typical Bruins fashion, Jim, I'm glad you said it in the comments. We trade off everybody. We're like, finally, we're going to rebuild after 20 years of trying to make it work. And we win 2 straight against the top 2 teams in our division, because that's what we're going to do. We're going to sneak into the playoffs, fuck ourselves out of a lottery pick, because that's whatever you want them to do, they're going to do the opposite. And I'm out.
Boston, for a long time, has been a competitive team, and that hurts. You saw it with the Wings were in this scenario not too long ago where they had 20 something years of consecutively making the playoffs.
Right.
That hurts you. Montreal was in a similar situation for a long time where they would be good enough to make the playoffs but never good enough to win the whole thing. So they'd make the playoffs and they'd go on a couple of runs and they'd be like, oh, we're into the second round, and we'd lose to Boston when we had Kovalchuk, who was still one of my favorite Habs players ever. Short-lived, but super fun.
I love that the Thrashers always post their cap on Twitter. I love seeing that. Like, after this move, the Thrashers have this much cap room.
Still have tons. Still a big spender. You need a rebuild, and unfortunately, you're where my team was 4 years ago.
It's 4 years overdue, to be honest.
They went on their run with Carey Price and with Theodore, and they had no one left. Or sorry, Weber. They had no one left. Weber had no ankles left. Price had no knees left. They didn't win. They lost to Tampa, who was a far better team in the COVID run Stanley Cup, which is still LOL for the last. When was the last time the Leafs made a Cup final? And talk shit all you want.
COVID Cup, baby.
Still made it. It was arguably a more difficult Cup run the way that it laid out. But anyway,
to piggyback off of the front office, like, this had to happen. The problem is that the amount of draft picks and just fumbling they've done the last 10 years, missing on just about everybody. The list of draft picks, the players that are stars in the NHL right now, the Bruins could have drafted and passed on, it's pages. You have to scroll 3, 4, 5 times to get to the bottom of that. So the problem, on top of, like, yes, it was time to do this, and I think we got a somewhat decent haul back. You have to hit, and I don't trust this front office to do that. When have they given me evidence that they're going to do the right things? They haven't.
The issue that you have right now is you are exactly where we were with old Bergeron. Who was the GM that had my GM that had the giant? He had the pythons. He had the cannons. Anyway, it was Mark Bergevin, and that's what it was.
Yeah.
And he had a bad history of bad draft, and then they brought in Kent Hughes, and they brought in everybody else. They changed everything. You need an organizational overhaul. The step one is to say we are in a rebuild of some sort, whether it's a retool or a full rebuild, whatever that is. I don't know if you're going to go full rebuild because you've got Swayman and Zadorov and Middlestat who are still good players. So you need to do something.
David Pastrnak and friends. How Josh Allen was Josh Allen and friends this year with all of his random wide receivers he has. That's Pastrnak from here on out. Again,
worst at draft Bruins or Belichick? It's Belichick. It's Belichick all day long. Don't even talk to me. Bruins drafted better than Belichick drafted.
I don't know if they did. I don't know if they did.
Yes, they did. Yes, they did. Because N'Keal Harry has 36 catches in his entire NFL career, and most of them didn't come with the Patriots. And instead of taking, I don't know, Terry McLaurin or DK Metcalf or any of the other 40 receivers that went before him in that draft, they were like, N'Keal Harry is the pick. Stupid. Stupid.
Bill had hits, though. The Bruins have literally nothing. They haven't put out one. The We don't. The last like true
No,
person we pushed through
no, guys.
our whole program is Pasternak and McAvoy, who were bona fide superstars. Like they were gonna be superstars regardless. I don't know, man.
Look.
It's close. They're both bad. Maybe the Bruins are
close.
just more
Right.
freshly on my mind. The Patriots are doing good things in my mind right now, so